Computer chess, it's a very difficult subject. How can we use it? How can we use computers' help, and what we should and shouldn't do about the computers, with the computers? It's very helpful to use computers when you checking your variation or analyzing your games that you played. Whether you miss some tactical shots, computers will help you a great deal. It's not very helpful for you to play computers constantly and see if you improved, because it may be very, very misleading for several reasons. Reason one, why it may be very misleading, because first of all, humans play with you completely different style, and they don't make frequently moves computers do. And because humans use intuition, and intuition, some of computers' moves are highly counterintuitive. The other reason why it's not good, so for instance, you are rated 16 or 1700, and you are using some program, and program is beating you, and you play like 50 or 60 games, and program keeps beating you. That does not mean you did not improve. That may be very harmful for you to make these conclusions. Or if you start beating it, that may be very misleading as well. And here is why. Because suppose you know already what computer is going to play. Computers, especially the commercial ones that you buy, you play against them some opening, and you see that something wrong he has done, computer. It has done. So you prepare for it, and you start playing, and you beat this computer. What does that mean? Does that mean you became better player? Not necessarily. Maybe you did, but maybe you didn't, because you just better prepared, and something you work on. Computers do not learn from one game to another. Anyway, the commercial programs don't, but other programs, supercomputers of course do, but that's not the programs we are talking about. Very helpful computers are when you're developing chess theory. Suppose you get some idea. You cannot get brand new idea from computer. You have to feed computer some strategical idea. Computer will develop and calculates very, very fast. Now, that is going to be good to use for a personal improvement. But then again, a lot of chess players I know, it's online on internet and in life also, they like to test their skills and play against the computer anyway. When computer chess was very popular, it started to become very popular on internet chess maybe like 12 years ago or 10 years ago. And I was the person to play maybe more games against computers than anyone else in the world. So I played a lot of games, and there was a program, very interesting program. Actually, it used to be a Cray Blitz, and now it's called Crafty. And I can share with you a lot of interesting things about development of this program. Now let me explain you. I played a lot of games against Crafty, playing with white, this particular opening, and either bishop b4 check or e takes d. Basically positions would become the same. Queen takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop d7, bishop takes c4, and pieces would come off the board real quickly, and we would have gotten the end game. we would be getting the end games. And interesting things, when we get positions like this, something weird was happening. It's actually something weird is going in computer's mind. They would go something, maybe bishop d7 or bishop e6. We would exchange bishops, and then computer would make some move like this, going with the king on the edge of the board. We know that's a good example of why we shouldn't play computers. We should play humans. There is no human, regardless his qualifications and skills, will ever play you king h8 in this position. Well, computers today are completely, this is just a kind of raw example, and I used to win these endgames like maybe 9 out of 10. It's completely different story today. Today, computers don't do that. Computers were always, until like recently, like maybe a year and a half or two, they were extremely weak in the end games. Right now, and I used to play and I used to win a lot of games in the end game. And I used to win maybe 80-90% of the games against fairly strong and highly rated computers in the end game. Right now, these computer programs are so well developed, they developed so well, then you cannot beat them in the end game now. You virtually cannot outplay them in the end game. They are very good end game players, and computers now also have something we don't have programmed in our heads, and it's table bases, which means most of the programs, they have table bases, 5 or 6-piece table bases. That means if on the board there are 5 or 6 pieces and no more, that includes kings, computer already knows what the result is going to be. And from there on, it's going to play the game flawlessly. That's very, very precise and without a mistake. And if you make one mistake, you can be 100% sure that you will be checkmated. You will be punished for mistakes. So also their strategy is highly improved. I have played a lot of games against computers in the end games lately, and I see they practically, well, I'm talking about strong computers, they practically make no mistakes. They make absolutely no mistakes, and endgame is not the stage you want to play mostly against computers. Now, I'm talking about the players that like to perform well against computers. What type of positions can you play? Obviously, you have to try to play positions where the closed positions where a lot of maneuvering is involved. And let me show you one of the games. This is very typical game I played against a very strong computer. Well, I won this game. I've lost a lot of games to computers too. But let me show you the type of position. Knight f3, knight c6. This is very typical for the way you should play against computers. Bishop takes a bc, d6, e4, e5. This is all opening theory. Now, you see there are 8 pawns on a board on each side. There's a lot of maneuvering going on. Castle. Well, in this position, d5 was played. knight to e7, rook b1, b6. Now this position, computers don't play this well even today. You see, they don't have clear plan and they have to maneuver. They don't have pawn breaks. Computers programmed with a pawn breaks, with activity of the pieces. Understanding weak pieces, humans do better than computers. And this is the type of position where computer was completely outplayed. Castle, just to show you the example, knight e8, rook b2, f5, knight g5, f4, queen h5, h6, knight to e6. Now, obviously, knight to f3 is bad because of knight f6, and after queen h4, knight g6, trapping the queen. So knight e6 is mandatory. Bishop takes e6. Knight is on e8. Bishop takes e6. D takes e, and knight to c7. Now what happened here after rook d1, knight takes e6, bishop d2? Black is completely lost. Well, let me summarize thoughts about this game. We gave program that can calculate millions of variations in a second. We gave this program a position where is nothing to calculate at all. This position cannot be calculated. It's all very, very static. Everything is very static, and all depends now how black is gonna take advantage of this position where bishops are very bad, knights are very strong in close position. Black is a pawn up and easily won position. Now, this is one example. Now, let me show you the other example of total positional disaster that computer can face, was facing. e45, knight f3, knight c6, and I actually demonstrated not only computer can get this problem, but even humans, if they don't play opening correctly. This was played opening exactly the way book said by computer, but computer was at some point book ends, and what we have, we know very well what our plan is, and we know the strategic line of this plan, and we can play it a lot better than computer, especially if position is not that tactical. Well, in this position, white castles, bishop c5, f3, knight g5, f4, knight e4, bishop e3. Black castles, knight d2, knight takes d2, queen takes d2, and after bishop b6, knight b3. Now, I've had this position several times, this type of position, against computers, and I gotta tell you that this position is very bad for black, and computers couldn't come up with anything. Eventually, we ended up exchanging bishops, and, well, you should know that this position is very bad. And black's activity very much restricted, and if black goes to endgame, this dominating knight versus bishop will be decisive advantage. So right now it's very difficult for you to beat computer like this. Well, I'm talking about strong computers such as the same as Crafty or Shredder or Fritz. You cannot beat them like this because they are a lot better prepared. They have a lot more knowledge, they start understanding, they programmers found a way of programming, on putting in computer's mind what weakness of the squares, bad bishops for passive pieces, and for instance, every piece is evaluated. Every computer does not know difference between queen, rook, and knight. They don't evaluate them as queen and a rook. They evaluate them by the numbers only. Queen is 9, rook is 5, knight and bishop is 3. So how many points there are? So now if they see that bishop is blocked and can, well, this is the good example of a blocked bishop and bad position of the bishop on b7 and bishop on d3. Now, can you evaluate bishop on d3 and bishop on b7? Bishop on d3 is maybe full 3 points, and bishop on b7 maybe 2. So black now is a pawn, 1 point down. Point is a pawn. They count 1 point equals to 1 pawn, and now black is, that's how they can determine what is a good bishop, what is a bad bishop. Or same goes for knights. Computers know that a rook and a bishop are better than rook and the knight, and not all humans do. And computers play these positions with 2 bishops. Everybody knows, we know that 2 bishops in open position they are very strong. And now the way computers did, I had a misfortune to experience it on myself. They play positions with 2 active bishops as good as it can be played ever. They are absolutely flawless and a very impeccable technique. Now we got a problem. How can we beat computers? If we cannot beat them in the opening, we know that. We cannot beat them in calculations. We can never calculate anywhere near as well as computers. So we have, the only way you can succeed with against the computer, try to make them play positions that computing is not as essential. Closed positions with very difficult breakthroughs where the pawns don't really have flexibility, and you know computer cannot open position to explore their full capacity, of their full skills. So we have to play positions where computers are not as strong. A lot of times there were some strong players. They played testing games against very strong computers, and they came up, actually they didn't come up, they followed advices, and I was one of them who started playing against computers, the kind of stonewall position. So when you play like this, and computers play d5, c5, and well, some position like this. This is a position, and computer would play c4 later. It's very difficult for computer to play because they are not, they don't, this is like 8-pawn position. The more pawns on the board, the more advantages humans have. So we know we have to do this, and then we have to try somehow start the attack on a king side. An attack on a king side can be very effective against the computer because, for a couple of reasons, you know they are not going to push pawns and try to resist the attack because they are programmed not to weaken their king position. They are programmed. So you don't expect from them some moves like knight d7 and f6 and try quickly to kick the knight to stop the upcoming g4 h4 attack. And when they start worrying and when you start creating real threats on the king's side, it's already too late. May happen many times in my games when I had this position with bishop on g5 and I would exchange dark square bishops, and even if position was closed, then white goes g4. So position close to this that looks structurally like this, and you see that bishop on b7 is totally out of order, and white has all they can get on a king's side. When 6 pieces start attacking computer's king and there are 2 pieces defending, it's too late. It doesn't matter how many moves a second you can calculate. It's too late already. So those are the ways to play against computer. But now let me, computer skills extremely developed. I would say in last 3 to 4 years, they made more progress than they made in 20 years before that. I would say that now, to show you some good examples, well, I played against the computers that are very skillful, even in a positional maneuvering. Now, this is an interesting game. I'll show you a game between one of the Russian grandmasters. It's a blitz game, but it's a blitz game with increment, which is for every move you get 3 seconds. And if the position closed, human and experienced players can make these moves relatively fast, and you see how skillful computer was to outplay slowly this, even in those positions. Okay, let me go with the move. d4, knight f6, c4, b6, bishop g5, bishop b7, knight d2, g6, and the computer is black. Bishop takes f6, ef, knight g2, f3, bishop to e7, g3, castle. Actually, pawn is on c3. G3, castle, bishop g2, rook to e8, castle, d5, knight e1, knight d7, this queen d7. This part actually is not as important. Knight d3, knight a6, rook e1, c6, b4, knight c7, a4, knight e6, a5, bishop a6. Now, let's talk about this position. We have, it looks like it's a dream position for black, for white, I mean, against the computer, because you have all 8 pawns on the board. Black has 2 bishops, and 2 bishops is not such a good idea to have when there are 8 pawns on the board. And after a5 and bishop a6, a4, a5 and bishop a6, white went h4, bishop d6, knight f3, knight to g7, and e3. So white has all their pawns on dark squares, light square bishop, and you see how black, but white's problem in those type of positions is always the same. The problem in white's positions is that they have no active plan. But humans play this against computer because they don't want active plan. They don't want activity. They don't want position to be opened. They want to sit and wait when computers make big positional mistakes. And you know what? Computers were not disappointing people before. They were making those mistakes, and we were taking advantage of them, and we were scoring a lot of points. Okay, now computer went knight h5, knight f4, knight takes f4, e takes f, rook takes e1, queen takes e1, rook e8, queen d2, and bishop to c4. A takes b, a takes b, bishop to f1, bishop takes f1, king takes f1. Here we have position with 7 pawns on the board on each side. Double pawns for both sides on f-file, and bishop. Bishop is not, there is no such a thing as a good bishop. When you have 7 pawns on a board, all bishops are obviously blocked by the pawns. So, and bishop on d6 is not that great, although knight on f3 cannot cause too many problems for black. And you see how masterfully computers can slowly take initiative. So in this position, rook e4, played by computer, by knight g1, and rook e8. Position repeats. I'm sure after knight f3, black would have played different move, not again rook f4, so rook e4, so king g2, queen to f5, rook e1, and they know that they should keep rooks on the board. The reason why, because there is such a thing as a formula in chess. You have to know that rook and bishop, they are better than rook and knight. But queen and knight, they are better than queen and bishop, because they are filling each other's functions. This position would have been good position for white. Well, at least very safe. And black would never have any chances to win, because knight is better than bishop in a closed position. What happened? Black played rook a8, and after knight f3, king g7, rook e3, queen b1, rook e1, queen b3. You see how black's pieces slowly infiltrate in white's position. h5, rook a2, queen e3, queen c2. You see the first sign of white's problems. Now white has to keep queen on e3 to protect f2 pawn and c3 pawn. Now queen is already very restricted and therefore weak piece. Queen c2, rook h1, and queen to e4. White cannot take on e4 because after d takes c, knight has to move, and then black is going to play rook c2, maybe e3, and white is going to be in a lot of trouble. So in this position, after queen e4, white played rook e1, but now rook to c2, and white here has no moves and no choice but to take the queen. Pawn takes, rook takes c3, and you see the other pawn is weak, and that's enough for computer to win the game. Black played b5, followed by bishop takes, b4, and eventually they won the game. Now, well, we couldn't have seen this game played by a computer several years ago, because they had they didn't have those skills. And now computers do some amazing things. They can make some amazing decisions. And if you take some program, we're talking in this case the Shredder program, that's been one of the top, that is one of the top programs in the world today, you can see that if you take Shredder and every operator person who purchases the shredder or can operate this machine, it can change the style. Some, for example, well, let me tell you, as I explained before, everything material has numbers. Everything in chess, in computer chess, is numbers. Positional advantage, if computer has the positional advantage, it evaluates in numbers. How much is it worth? 1 pawn or 1 point or 2 pawns or 2 points? But that's known. Originally in program is programmed that rook is 5 points. But now I'm going to show you a game where obviously evaluation of rook was changed, and I'm clear about it. I want to make it clear that it was changed. I cannot explain any other way. How could computer sacrifice for activity the exchange, which is rook for a bishop? Now you see, if you evaluate rook as a 5 and bishop as a 3, so you don't give 2 pawns for some activity, but if rook is a 4 and bishop is a 3, they may do it for 1 pawn. So activity may worth 1 point, but not 2. Let me look at this game. This is the game I played against this Shredder program a few days ago, practically. Knight f3, I am black. g6, d4, bishop g7, g3, knight f6, b3, castle, bishop g2, c5. Here is the move, and any program, actually this is theoretical position too, they go bishop b2. Any program would play bishop b2. The program that I played against here, computer, it took maybe 15 or 20 seconds and played move d takes c. Now this is hard to imagine computer do that. I went knight e4, obviously attacking the rook, and I expected computer to play knight d4 and then I take on c5, and I have reasonably good position. And I was absolutely shocked when computer went c3, knight takes c3, knight takes c3, bishop takes c3, and bishop d2. Now this is interesting now to notice. We could never see this happening a few years ago. Bishop takes a1 and queen takes a1. Now white is threatening to go bishop h6 and threaten to take the rook or checkmate black on g7, but black played f6, and here is the position that computer voluntarily went to. Now obviously this program sees that black's king is weakened a little, and possibility of attacking the black's king is worth the material deficit that white had. This absolutely shocked me, because I have not seen computers sacrifice material for possible future developing attack. This is okay. You can see this in human games all the time, humans games, but not computers. And this was, let me show you how well it was played by the program. Castle, I went d5, and after rook d1 I went e6. Now e4, knight c6, and white played b4. Now they want to go b5, and you see after bishop h6, black has problem developing. After b4, I went d4 and b5. This is already difficult position. And after knight e5, knight takes d4, queen e7, c6. I'm not saying obviously black didn't play their best. It was the blitz game. But I'm going to show you, this just shows you clearly how can computers improve. The programmers can make changes that can make completely different evaluation of certain position by computers. Because if you change numbers, it changes the style. And this position is already very bad for black. And after I played e5, there was queen c1, bishop e6, bishop to a5, and you see the pawn on c7 is very powerful. Bishop a5, bishop takes a2, bishop h3, and now I was forced to play f5 because white is threatening c7 and c8. Bishop e6 loses immediately after bishop to b4. And if queen takes b4, bishop takes e6, and on king h8 c7, black is totally busted. But after f5, black is busted as well. f5, e takes f, g takes f, bishop c3. You see bishop on this diagonal. Two powerful bishops with a very strong pass pawn and activity of the pieces. It's a way more than enough that computer needs. And game in two moves was over. This is actually interesting, very well played game by the computer. But now let me show you the same program. Well, they have, so this computer likes to attack an open king's position, opponent's king's position, and attack, and it makes emphasis in the style on attacking opponent's king. But it may backfire too. Let me show you some other game. The same program played against me, that was earlier, c4, e5, and I was black. Knight c3, again you're going to see something highly unusual. Knight f6, g3, bishop b4, I am black here. G3, bishop b4, knight f3, bishop takes c3, and you see that I try to give bishops, keep knights, and keep position closed to take advantage of knights versus bishop. Bishop takes c3, d takes c, d6, bishop g2, castle, b3, h6, h3, rook e8, and here I was completely shocked by the decision computer made. It took here a few seconds, and he made a move that few years ago there is no way we could see this move made by the computer. We could see this move made by some crazy humans. What I mean by crazy humans, that people that like to attack opponent's king no matter what the position is. And g4 was played by Schroeder. Knight bd7, g5. Pawn takes, knight takes, knight f8, and h4. Well, it's obvious now what white wants is to put the rook on g1 and using this dark square bishop attack black's king side. But if that doesn't work, then white is going to have a lot of pawn weaknesses they're going to have to deal with. Actually, this game was very well played by the black. Knight 6 to h7, knight takes h7, knight takes h7, and h5. Again, white is very consistent in their plan, and they try to open black's king position. After h5, rook b8. Well, I want to develop the bishop, and I'm protecting the b7 pawn. Computers like to attack, but if you give them a pawn for nothing, they will be very grateful to you. h6, g6, queen d3, and b6. Now you see what black wants. Black wants to avoid pawn confrontations that will open some positions. Now h6 is a good pawn for black. What I mean by that, it's a white pawn, but it blocks the h file for white rook. So white goes rook g1. Well, they put the rook on semi-open file on g file. Queen f6 by black. Bishop e4 with a very obvious threat of bishop takes g6. And after bishop e4, king h8, bishop to e3. It looks like white has bishops placed very nicely in the center. Now black goes bishop f5. And when white castles, bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, and this a6 move, it's a mostly waiting move, and maybe black will go b5 later. But you see now that white does not have an attack because all the files are closed. There are 7 pawns on the board for each side, and the bishop does not feel comfortable on e3. White has to open position here somehow, and that's not easy to do. Now in this position, after black played a6, king to b2, several waiting moves, knight f8, bishop to g5, queen to e6, bishop to e3 back, king to h7, just to make sure g6 pawn is well protected. After king h7, queen to c6, attacking c7 pawn, queen to d7, queen to f3, and knight to e6. You see now, knight is better piece, as in most, very frequently, most of the time, in a closed position, knight is better than the bishop. Knight e6, queen e4, queen to e7, and after queen to c6, f5. Now you see that black plays on a queen side, and they have already significant advantage. White has no attack at all. And after bishop d2, a5, bishop to c1, rook b to d8. It's just random move. Don't forget, this is a blitz game, and just you have to make some moves really quick, not to waste a lot of time. Well, of course, every move gives you a few seconds of increment, so you want to be very solid. Make sure that you don't allow any infiltration of white's pieces, especially against computers. Rook b to d8, queen g2, queen to f7, and after queen d5, rook to f8. Black can play this position very slowly. They have all the time in the world. Position is closed. White has no plan at all. Queen c6, queen d7, queen g2, queen f7, f3, and here f4, completely shutting off the bishop on c1. After f4, white went e4, but then rook to g8. And you see now, black wants to go g5, rook g6, rook g8. Eventually, h6 pawn is lost. Bishop is bad. White is totally lost in this position. And after rook g8, king a1, g5, queen e2, white does not have any useful moves. And rook g6, rook g4, rook takes h6, rook d to g1, king g6. Now you see I want to double the rooks on h file, and after queen d3, rook d8, bishop b2, rook h1, it's one-sided game. That's where computers are hopeless. Well, not only computers, but the position is hopeless, so humans will be hopeless too. Here, well, then exchanged, black penetrated with the queen, and game was over very shortly. Now this is backfired activity in the search for activity and pushing the pawns quickly and making anti-positional moves by white, which they were. That was a computer. That's a part of a program. What they did is they undermined positional weaknesses. They went for attack. But if black misplayed it just a little bit, it would have been total disaster. And now this was a well-played game by black. There is a reason why I'm not bringing any tactical brilliances by the computer, because I don't think it's going to surprise anyone that computer can calculate 15 or 20 moves ahead. And I remember we used to go, wow, wow, but now we stopped doing that because it's like a normal thing. And emphasis I'm making now on the positional skills, on their endgame techniques, and their speed of calculation. The absolutely amazing thing happened. It happened in 1999. There was a test playing two computers, two programs, very well-known programs. Cray-Blitz, which is crafty, against Ferret, very well-known computer, was twice world champion in microcomputer championships. And it was witnessed. I saw this on Internet Chess Club. This was something I never expected I would live to see. They played games, 4-game match. Now this may sound a little bit ridiculous what I'm going to say now, but that's the truth. The time control was giving. They had to spend no more than 1 second for entire game. Time control was they were given 1 second for up to 80 moves they had to make. And I have those games right here in front of me, and when I went through them, and I have the recording, I can show you some of them. You're going to see that every move makes perfect sense. Obviously, quality cannot be very high. And here is the game. E4, D5, ED, queen takes D5, knight C3, queen D8. One of the variations of a center counter normally is queen A5, but black went queen D8. That makes sense too. Obviously, we're not going to analyze and go into deepest details of this game, because remember, that was a game that played in 1 second entire game. Queen D8, knight F3, knight C6, bishop B5, knight F6, castle, bishop, knight F6, castle, knight D5, knight to E5, bishop to D7. You see, the computer had to see that. They're giving knight to get the knight. So it was all, for each move, they have, well, approximately maybe like a millisecond, which is 1,000th of a second. And they had to go through this and calculate it. Bishop takes C6, bishop takes C6, queen F3, threatening mate on F7, F5, queen takes F5, knight to F6, knight takes C6, B takes C, rook E1, queen D7, queen C5, queen D6, queen c4, knight d5, knight e4, queen e6, queen d4, knight b6, queen d3. Of course, again, quality suffers because of the time control, but rook d8. Just to summarize and make a point, I'll tell you that this game went on for 37 moves, white won, and then I have few other games. There is a game that was played in 77 moves, ended in a draw because of the drawish position, and the other game went on for 66 moves, and the last game, there were 4 games, went for 35 moves. It's absolutely mind-boggling experience was. I didn't think this was possible. Now, that means the calculation and their capability of seeing combinations is, well, it cannot be overestimated. Well, remember one thing, that's something that we see, unusual move, and like a combination, and if we play it, we are proud of it. For computer, it's just another move. In this particular position, when black plays rook d8 and attacks white's queen, let me tell you that moving the queen, computer is assessing just as well as a move like king h1 that makes no sense. They calculate every possible move. And how many moves are possible here? Maybe 20, maybe over. And that happens on every move. Number of variations calculated in a game, they are absolutely astronomical. Now, just recently, I remember there was a program that was always playing in these microcomputer championships and was doing medium results, and the program was Nimzovich, and recently it played against one of the best, maybe the best program, which is Shredder, and that machine won convincingly. That mediocre program won almost every game. The reason is because it was operated on a much faster hardware and was calculating, I was told by one of the programmers, was calculating 150 million variations a second. That's possible. That's the triumph for modern computers and technology, but that hardly gives benefits of the chess skills. So now, if I gave you the advice, now how can we confuse computers? Here, I am on a human's team. I'm not on a computer's team. I'm on a human's team. Well, there was one absolutely amazing experience that was performed by Crafty. I was always a big fan of Crafty, and the programmer I'm very friendly with. So there is the position that is very well known in modern chess theory. There are millions and millions of variations from here on. And most of the chess programs are programmed, they have chess books, they have everything analyzed, but here's the position, most popular move, and obviously computer is fully equipped with an opening book on that. And also there is this move, computer fully equipped on that too. But here is in one of the games, on a world championship, I remember several years ago, Crafty went bishop to b5, and after a6, bishop to c4. Now this position is obviously not in the book, in its programmed book. So now we have the mix of two knights defense with Giocopiano. So we have mixed of two different openings, and computer program for black, if it's not really strong program, got very much confused, and black lost the game in under 20 moves. Now if we try this today against a weaker computer, it may or may not work. It's definitely not going to work against super programs. So what I would recommend to do, if you want to improve your own performance against computer, there are few things. So you have to be one necessary ingredient. You have to be extremely skillful in positional play and in maneuvering. That's one. And then the other skill you need and necessary, you have to be extremely skillful in getting these positions. One problem is to play those positions correctly, and the second, maybe even more difficult, of getting them. To get them is very, very difficult, because as we try to get computer to close position, as much their programmers try to program them to keep positions open, to break with the pawns, to open the center. And there is the ongoing battle. I think it's going to be still for many years to go, but I strongly convinced that soon we're going to stop playing against computers, because we will not be able to handle them. But for now, remember, keep pawn structure closed. Keep as many pawns on the board as possible. Try to get them into maneuvering, and try to get them have a bad bishops. Knights are extremely powerful against bishops in closed position. So those skills, you need to get those skills. Those skills are going to help you a great deal in your chess improvement, but for computer they are a very essential weapon, and that's the only way you can fight with them. But also, remember, you can also have computer on your side, using it, as I said in beginning, for analyzing certain variations, analyzing your games, and inventing newer and newer things in modern chess theory. So enjoy them, and we have a lot of fun using computer in computer programs. Thank you very much.